You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, thank you so much for tuning in. Today is December 2nd, 2024. It is a Monday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt. Susie, the producer, is in the control room. We welcome you to the inaugural Boys Basketball Week in Review. And this is going to be a long one. We're about to go through every single team in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. We also spoke with Madison-Grant head coach Josh Hendrixson, Oak Hill head coach Kevin Renbarger, Misssinewa's Josh Brooks, Elwood's Ryan Vanskyock, Tri-Central head coach Cam Hindman, and George Bremer to talk about Saturday night's big game in Anderson between the Indians and Liberty Christian. And at the end of all of us, the Herald-Bulletin's Rob Hunt will break down all of the teams in Madison County through 1 week. If you are looking to hear about a certain team, this is the order that we're going to do things. The CIC, the Hoosier Conference, the NCC, the Hoosier Heartland, our only independent, Lapel, the Mid-Eastern Conference, the Pioneer, and our only Three Rivers Conference team, Northwestern. We'll also do the individual team recaps in order of current conference standings within the conferences. We'll have boys basketball scoreboards every day this week, Tuesday through Sunday. Even if there are no games, we will do previews and talk to coaches and get thoughts from various media around the area. So we'll have a scoreboard every day except for Monday. That day, of course, is for our week in review, both our boys and our girls. This is the first one ever for the Central Indiana Sports Report Boys Week in Review. And here we go, starting with the Central Indiana Conference. There haven't been any conference games yet in the CIC. That starts Saturday when Elwood visits Eastbrook. Madison-Grant is the only remaining team without a loss. They are 1-0 after Saturday's win over Wabash. Blackford, Misssinewa, and Oak Hill are all 1-1. Elwood is 1-2. Alexandria is 0-2. And Eastbrook and Frankton lost their openers. So we start with the only unbeaten team, which is Madison-Grant. The Argyles won their opener over Wabash 42-29, and they did it with defense. The Argyles held Wabash to 26% shooting, 10 of 38, just 1 of 11 from behind the three-point arc. They also forced 14 turnovers. Luke Gilman, Ike Almeida, and Xavier Yagi had big nights for Madison-Grant. Gilman was 6 for 8 from the field and led Madison-Grant with 14 points. Almeida was 5 for 8 and finished with 10. Yagi had 7 points, 4 steals, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds in the win. But it was mostly the defense that head coach Josh Hendrixson wanted to talk about.
Well, I thought our defensive intensity and our effort was high on that end. I feel like we rebounded the ball well. We were even with the Wabash team, we probably had a little bit of length on us. I think we did a good job in some of our traps when we were on trapping defense. And also, I think the first half for sure, we're definitely very fundamental man-to-man wise in our shell defense and being in the right positions.
What did your team do well, and aside from rebounding, and who played well for you?
Luke Gilman played well. Had a big fourth quarter. Had 10 points in the fourth quarter that kind of put the game away. We spread them out offensively. Went to a little bit of a 5-out, and Gilly did a good job of coming off some curls and cutting away from the basketball for layups. So I was real impressed with the way he played, especially the way he played down the stretch when we were looking for layups and free throws on every possession. And then, I think it was a great team effort, the cohesiveness of the guys. the way they didn't mind who was doing the scoring as long as we were doing the scoring. That's what I was impressed with the most.
Misssinewa freshman Ravion Fetz went 9 for 9 from the field and finished with a team best 25 points to help the Indians beat Huntington North 66-65 in overtime on Saturday for the Indians' first win of the season. Misssinewa shot 55% for the game and overcame Viking senior Ethan Zahn's 39-point performance. Feds also scored 10 points in his debut, a 68-49 home loss to Marion. In the loss, they were led by 17 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal from senior Keontae Woods. I spoke with Misssinewa head coach Josh Brooks about his team's first week of the season.
I think we have some room to improve. Even though we were able to come back and get a win on Saturday, still turning the ball over more than, I would like to. But I do feel like things maybe started to click a little bit more there in the second half on Saturday. So, like the direction we're heading, think the guys are, bought in and, ready to work and continue to try to improve and get better with each day. So, happy about that. But, Saturday's game, even though it was a win, definitely showed some areas of improvement as well.
I also asked him about his freshman Fetz and whether he expected that kind of performance.
I don't think I was quite ready for Ravion to be able to, emerge, I guess, the way he did on Saturday. Obviously, a very special day, going 9 for 9 from the floor and scoring 25 points for us, kind of leading that comeback. But he has been every bit as good as we had hoped and anticipated, and probably more. And so, obviously a very pleasant and welcome surprise to see him, reaching that level of comfortability this early on in the season.
Oak Hill started its season with a solid 59-45 win at Wabash, then went cold in a 76-36 loss to a very strong Manchester team at home on Saturday. Junior guard Jace Tonigal scored 33 points in the opener, then had 21 of the Eagles' 36 points in the loss to Manchester. They shot just 25% in the defeat, 20% from three, and turned the ball over 15 times. I spoke with Oak Hill head coach Kevin Renbarger, who said he's still looking for some answers with this team.
Well, it's obviously nice to pick up a win, the day before Thanksgiving, and kind of give the kids a good feeling about what was going on before we hit a Thanksgiving break. Wabash is always a tough place to play. Not having any idea, with Wabash having such a big turnover, not having any idea what to do, or actually who you were going against was a big barrier. And then, Wabash came out and played a 1-3-1, which is very unusual for a Paul Wright coach team. So for our kids to adjust to that, they did some things on the defensive end and in transition until we could get settled in on what we needed to do with a 1-3-1 zone defense. Saturday, I think the best way to describe Saturday was it was an experienced varsity basketball team teaching an inexperienced varsity basketball team what it means to play at that level. And that's really the long and short of it, is that, Manchester came in here, did virtually everything that they wanted to do in their game plan, did everything that they wanted, made very few mistakes, especially given a first game scenario for them. And we did not do any of those things. And I think hopefully moving forward, especially after tonight's practice, and we touch on the film, the kids will understand the difference between the way that we approach that particular game and the way that you need to approach that particular game in regards to execution of a game plan and discipline, and just taking care of all of the little things and doing those things as hard as you possibly can for the entire 32 minutes of a basketball game, and that the outcome or the results are going to be very similar if we do not make those changes.
Clearly, Jace had a nice week. Anybody else stand out to you, Coach?
See, that's really the problem and the issue, is that we didn't shoot the ball particularly well, especially Saturday night. We were anybody not named Jace Tonigal was 1 of 15 from 3-point range, and shot 25% from 2-point range, which is abysmal. And so we're going to need some other people to step up. We struggle with foul issues mightily both games. RJ Shugart was in foul trouble most of, I would say he probably sat the bench half of the entire weekend because of foul problems. And so we didn't have really anybody step up in a significant way, but we have people that are certainly capable. I think the shooting is an aberration. As we talked in our preseason, I think RJ is going to be in that 20-point a game range. He needs to be. Ryan Lawson, I think, probably did a decent enough job from the perimeter, and I think he'll step up. Landon Cruzen has struggled the first 2 games, but we anticipate all of these kids to kind of get off the snide, and water will find its level in regards to our shooting. But we're obviously going to have to find some people to relinquish a little bit of the pressure that Jace is feeling at this point.
After a tough 4-point loss to Southwood to start the season, Blackford got its first win Saturday, 62-61 at Bluffton. It was the first win for Blackford's head coach, Aaron Daniels, as well. Freshman Mari Leggett finished his first varsity week with 33 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 block shots. And senior Gage Baker had 31 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 assists for the week. The Bruins shot 37% from the 3-point line, led by Baker 6 for 14 and junior Mason Kitterman 4 for 10. Kitterman is averaging 9.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals per game. On Monday, I spoke with Coach Daniels about his team's week and his first varsity win. Coach, a couple of games into the season, how are you feeling about your team?
Yeah, we've played 2, and I'm feeling pretty good. I like that we've had 2 games where we held the lead in both, and both we kind of let slip away. And on Tuesday night, we weren't able to recover and lost a tough one to Southwood. And then Saturday, we kind of did the same thing, let them catch back up. Actually, got within a point, but on that one, our kids showed some resilience, and we were able to hold on for the win.
What do you think that is? What do you think the issue has been?
Yeah, for us, it's been shot selection late in the game. We shot it really, really well, and we just didn't know when it was a good shot. Which I take that on myself. I mean, I take the blame for that. We're still learning. We've done a ton of fundamental stuff early in the season. We just we haven't spent enough time with situational stuff. We took some shots with a minute left, kind of not forced. They were open, but in that situation, time and possession is key. We took some shots that kind of gave them a chance to get back in the games on both times.
Who's impressed you so far through 2 games, Coach?
So we kind of go as Gage Baker goes. He's our senior leader. He averaged 14 last year as a junior. He has all the talent to score. He had 19 in our second game. First game we really couldn't get him going. He was in foul trouble pretty much the whole game. He probably missed over a full quarter being on the bench in foul trouble, and so he can score it any which way. But you kind of rely on that day in and day out. And then our freshman, he had 21 in the opener. And then he had 12 in the second game. And really, he's been impressive. The game comes at you fast. And we knew that he could play at this level, but the high school game is so much faster and more physical than really even the AAU or the middle school world. So we weren't sure how he was going to be able to adapt. And he's done it on the fly and taking care of the ball and giving us some really valuable minutes.
And, of course, you got your first varsity win. That had to be special.
Well, it was special. I got to do it against Craig Teagle, who, mentored me pretty much my whole life. I played for him. I coached with him for about 9 years, which made it really special for me. But it really made it special for the kids. I mean, it was an important game for me, personally. But really, I wanted it for our kids because they've put in the time this summer. They put in the time early. We've tried to get better. So it was an all-around special win.
Elwood shot 27% from the field for the week and made just 2 of its 33 3-point attempts, but did beat Hamilton for its first win of the year. The 43-36 win over Hamilton was sandwiched by a 19-point loss at Jay County and a 48-24 loss at Anderson Prep on Saturday. Take away Jaden Mullins' performance, and Elwood shot just 21% for the week. Mullins was 8 for 17 and finished the week with 36 points and 36 rebounds. I spoke with Elwood head coach Ryan Vanskyock about his team's shooting woes.
Well, we learned a lot about ourselves. I felt like we are very inexperienced at the varsity level. Besides Jada Mullins, he's kind of carried us these first 3 games of the week. Our defense has been pretty good for the most part. I mean, we're averaging our defensive margin average is 42 points a game, which is really, really good. But then you look at our offensive average, it's at 30 points a game. We cannot put the ball in the hole this first week, and that kind of raises a lot of issues with us. And just because defensively we can be as great as we want, but if we're never hitting shots and we're always having to fly back in trans because they can get out and run because we never make it, it's going to be a long season. So when you look at the stats, I mean, we're 2 of 35 the last 2 games from 3 for 5%. We're shooting 6% from 3 on the season right now, the first 3 games. It's a little scary. We have 4 kids shooting 0% from 3. And then 2 is not much better. We're about 50% from the free throw line and then about 35% from the 2. So we've told those kids they've got to get in and put extra work up and get extra shots in, because if no matter how great we are defensively, if we can't hit any shots, we're not going to win any games. So we're lucky to win 1. We felt like Jay County, we had an opportunity to be in that game and couldn't hit shots. And then the same thing with APA last night. We had 3 points in the third quarter. The ball just didn't go in the hole, and eventually just led for layups for them. So we got a lot of work to do. I was pleased with our kids. We're not allowed to do anything with them on Sundays, but I had 9 kids go in the gym tonight and shoot on their own. So that's a positive. It shows me that they're kind of bought in and they want to get better. And hopefully shots can start falling for us. But if not, it's going to be a long year. So we're going to just keep working with them. Me and Coach Hicks are not giving up on the kids, and we're going to just continue to keep battling and fighting. And hopefully those shots start to fall, because our defense has been great for the most part so far. So we feel like we can score some points. We're going to have a chance to win some basketball games.
There was some good news, Coach. In Friday's game, some young kids made some big plays down the stretch.
Yeah, that's a bright thing to see. When you talk about it, I mean, we have 1 senior, 5 or 6 juniors, couple freshmen playing, and then 1 sophomore, 2 sophomores playing. Like, we are very, very, very inexperienced. So it was nice to get a win under our belt. It was nice for them kids to hit some shots. And eventually, hopefully, that leads to them getting used to the game. From a JV to varsity standpoint, the game is just so much quicker. Freshman to JV is quicker. Junior high to freshman to JV, extremely quicker. So every level you go, I mean, the game just gets quicker, stronger. So I feel like our kids learned a lot about themselves this first 3 games. And hopefully we continue. We get a whole week of practice to get ready for Eastbrook and settle down a little bit. So we got a lot to work on and a lot to go over, but I feel like our kids are kids that want to work hard and want to do the right thing. So hopefully we can get them in and start practicing, and hopefully the wins will start falling for us.
Frankton surrendered a pair of 11-0 runs, including 1 to start the game and an 11-point loss to open the season against rival Lapel. The Eagles shot just 18 of 52. Even Brady Carmack and Joey Wright, who combined for 37 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals, were just 12 of 38 combined. I spoke with Frankton head coach Brent Brobston about his team's opening night performance. That is on Sunday's boys basketball scoreboard. Go find that one, assuming that's something that interests you. And if you're listening to this, it probably does. That was episode 105.1, by the way. Eastbrook suffered a tough 49-46 loss at Northfield in its season opener Saturday. Sophomore Jaden Younts led the Panthers with 12 points, and senior Draven Collins and junior Bodie Collins scored 11 each for 34 of the team's 46 points. Howell also had a team best 6 rebounds. Sophomore Malachi Luthi finished with 4 points, 4 rebounds, and led the Panthers with 4 assists. Alexandria is 2-0 after a pair of losses at Anderson Prep and Westdale. The Tigers go back on the road Friday to face Eastern. We hope to get more details for you and speak with Coach Carroll later this week to catch up with the Tigers. There haven't been any conference games played yet in the Hoosier Conference either. Tipton is the only unbeaten team in the East Division, the division that we care about with our 3 local teams in it. That division is Tipton, Hamilton Heights, Western, and Logansport. Western is 1-1. Heights and Logansport are both 0-1. Tipton had a strong opening performance with a 64-40 win over rival Tri-Central in the Trojans gym. Grady Carpenter finished with 28 points and was 11 for 27 from the field and 5 of 7 at the foul line. 7 different Blue Devils scored at least 3 points. Sophomore Peyton Aller 10, senior Sam Quigley and sophomore Grayson McFall had 7 each. Junior Jace Clark 5, senior Landon Spidell 4, and junior Isaac Humrickhouse made a 3-pointer for his only points. Aller also had 4 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 assists. If you want to hear about that game in depth, go to Wednesday's boys basketball scoreboard. Michelle Garman of the Tipton Tribune had a recap. Also, we will have our Tipton season preview coming up in the next couple of days, and we will hear from head coach Cliff Hawkins. Western started its season 1-1 in the first week. Reigning 4A sectional champion Kokomo had an historic evening and a 98-56 win in Rushville before the Panthers rebounded for a 54-49 win over Twin Lakes in their first game away from home. Hudson and Carter Biggs had 56 points, 17 rebounds, 9 assists, and 7 steals combined for the week. 14th ranked Noblesville beat Hamilton Heights in its season opener Wednesday, 76-38, in the Huskies' only game of the week. Senior Gavin Saunders finished with 15 points in the loss for Heights. To the North Central Conference, again, no conference games yet, but 5 of the 6 teams are still unbeaten. Anderson and Marion are 2-0. Kokomo, Jeff, and Richmond are all 1-0, and Muncie Central is the only team with a loss. They are 0-1. Number 12, Anderson, got a pair of rivalry wins in its first week of the season. The Indians beat Pendleton Heights 65-52 and Liberty Christian 54-51. Both games were away from home. Indiana All-Star candidate Damian King had 38 points and 18 rebounds for the week. He had 18 points and 10 rebounds in the win over Liberty, and 20 points, 8 boards, 5 assists, and 4 steals in the opener. I spoke with Herald-Bulletin sports editor George Bremer, who covered Saturday's game between Anderson and Liberty Christian. He came away impressed with both teams.
Yeah, I think they might legitimately be 2 of the top 20 teams in the state. If we had the old system, and everybody was ranked in one group, I think it's possible that they're both, among the top 20. I think what's interesting about last night, as you would expect, given the fact that it's the second game of the year for both teams, neither one of them played particularly well. There's a lot of mistakes. I think both teams are going to look a lot better by the time the county tournament rolls around in January. And that makes it, I think, even more exciting. I think Anderson has a really interesting addition in Titus Hunter. He's another big guy. So they got 3 of them now with Javon Moorfield and Damian King that I think makes them really unique on defense. And I think they were able to they ran a 1-3-1 zone to start. They went to more of a matchup zone at some other points. But every time TJ English, who's probably the most dangerous player on Liberty's team, got the ball in the paint, he had 3 trees hovering around him. And I just think that's something they're going to be able to do to a lot of teams that you're not going to see that a lot in high school basketball. It's more what you would face, at the college level as far as that kind of size and strength. And then they've got the quickness and they've got guards like Colin Lewis. It's a deep team. I think they've got a starter out still that they expect to get back later. So I think it's going to be a team that's going to get better as the year goes on.
And Liberty, what or who stood out to you with the Lions?
Yeah, Liberty is still, when they get in transition, they are incredibly dangerous. And I don't know how you defend them when they're able to get out and run. Anderson did a really good job of limiting that, making it a half court game. And Liberty's shot wasn't falling. I think he started 0 for 10 from 3-point range. That's another thing that's early in the year. We'll see how that develops. But I think that's the blueprint, with them. Muscle them inside and force them to shoot from the perimeter is your best chance. I don't know if it's going to work all the time. Anderson had, I think, a 41 to 25 rebounding advantage. So he really dominated in the paint. King and Hunter, I think, combined for like 33 points and 20 rebounds. It was a really dominant performance by Anderson in that regard. But Liberty, their ability to score with multiple players, to run the floor, to create turnovers. Anderson turned the ball over 19 times. So there were still moments, that they would want to have back too. I think that's something that's going to help this Liberty team out as the year goes on. I think the biggest takeaway, though, there were 2,200 people in that gym, and they had to turn people away at the door. They had the bleachers on the upper side there at Highland weren't properly functioning. If they were, they probably could have opened that up and filled fuller, which gave it kind of a throwback feel. It was really a neat atmosphere in that regard.
Marion is 2-0 for the third straight season after a 19-point win at Missinewa and a 7-point win at Newcastle. Tim Jones led the Giants in the opening week with 51 points in 2 games. Defending NCC champion Kokomo started its season with an historic night. In a 98-56 win over Western, the Wildcats set several program records and a state record according to Kokomo SID Dean Hockney. Their 10 three-pointers in the fourth quarter was the most ever in a period in IHSA history. Their 12 threes made in the second half is the third most in state history. Their 45 three-point attempts ranked 7th in state history, and their 21 total threes made in a game is tied for 5th ever. Their 21 threes is 7 more than any game in Kokomo program history. Also, their 27 assists is tied for a program record with last year's win over Logansport. Senior Zion Bellamy made 7 of those three-pointers, which is tied for 3rd in program history, and led the team with 29 points. He also had 6 assists. Sophomore Eravon Burks made 5 threes and finished with 15 points, and junior Corbin Hamill made 4 threes and finished with 19 points in the win. Muncie Central shot just 26% overall and made 4 of 23 point attempts, and a season-opening 51-27 loss at Wapahani. Senior LJ Strange led the Bearcats with 11 points and 5 rebounds. Junior Landon Wells had 7 points, a team-best 7 boards, and 2 steals. 2-0 Rossville is atop the Hoosier Heartland standings. The Hornets beat 1-1 Delphi 66-62 at Delphi in the only conference game played so far. Taylor, Clinton Prairie, and Taylor are all 1-0 overall. Sheridan is 1-1. Tri-Central is 0-1. Clinton Central and Eastern haven't played yet. The Comets open their season Tuesday at Oak Hill. Taylor held Cross Point Christian to 10% shooting and forced 23 turnovers in a 53-12 win to open the season. The Titans led 14-2 at the end of the first quarter and 31-3 at halftime. They were led by 18 points from junior Javon Harris and 16 from sophomore Keyshawn Galloway. Harris was 7 for 13 from the field and had 15 rebounds. Galloway also had 6 rebounds, 5 steals, and 2 assists. Junior Dre McClatchy finished with 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 steals. Sheridan started its season with a 42-point home win over Cowan before a 63-58 road loss against Southmont on Saturday. Damon Winston had a strong start to his senior year with 36 points, 17 rebounds, 12 assists, and a couple of steals on the week. He shot 64% from the field and made half of his 6 3-point attempts. Tri-Central lost to county rival Tipton 64-40 at home in its opener. Here's Trojan head coach Cam Hindman's thoughts on the season opener.
I thought the game could have been a little closer. I still think that. We had some guys that normally score pretty well for us that struggled shooting. Drake Ramsier, he's normally an 11 to 17 point a game scorer, and he only had 3 that night, so he struggled a little bit. If we have those points, it's a heck of a lot closer than 24, and really overall the game itself was closer than a 24-point game. We had held them to 52 with a minute and I don't know 42 or 3 seconds to go when Tipton called their last timeout, and they got a 10 or so extra points out of that when we were kind of scrambling to try and get the ball stopped and catch an extra possession or two, and it kind of got away from us in that last minute. But you take that away, really defensively, we played one of the best games we've played against Tipton overall. So I was pretty happy then. I'm still pretty happy with that. I think we could play better than what we did, obviously, but we held our turnovers to 12. Our rebounding wasn't terrible. They did win the rebound battle, but overall, I thought we were in good positions to rebound. We did a lot of good things. I mean, you can only use the inexperience excuse for so long, but in this particular game, we had a lot of guys get their first taste of varsity action, and with that out of the way, I'm looking for a lot of fun coming out of the next 7 or 8 games for us.
Who did you feel played well for you, Coach?
Overall, my gosh, Izzy Fowler. I think to most everybody else in the stands, he was an unknown. We've known what this kid was going to be capable of from the start, is just getting him to that position where he's ready to step into this varsity role, and he has taken to it like a duck to water. He had a great scrimmage up at Fort Wayne Canterbury, and then came in and had a phenomenal game for us against Tipton. He had 17 points. Let me look at his stats here. He was 2 for 5 from 3 for 40%. From the twos, he was 5 for 7. That's a 71% scoring average. I'm sorry, shooting average. But if he can bring this every night, my goodness, that is a spot that we didn't realize was going to be quite as bright as what he's done the first 2 games. And I don't think he understands how important that's going to take pressure off of our guards and off of Jankoviak, who's the other one that came in and played really well. Jay scored 15 and kind of did what Jay does in the paint. And Jay rebounded the ball well and owned the middle. Jay also played really well being in foul trouble. He had to sit out much of the third quarter, and he played the fourth quarter really well with 4 fouls and ended up staying in the game. We had a couple really bright spots for us defensively in Aaron Hoback. We put Aaron and Tanner England, both kind of switched them back and forth, putting them on Carpenter, and both of those guys did great jobs for us. Carpenter is the kind of player for Tipton. He's going to get his points every single night, and he got his points against us. But I think one of the big parts to Carpenter's game is he is so good at getting everyone else involved, and he passes the ball well, he sees the floor well, and he makes all of his teammates better. And I think that part we did a good job taking away from him. He still scored. We frustrated him a little bit to where he forced some shots. But those 2 guys, again, Tanner England and Aaron Hoback, just did a great job of coming in and playing their role on the team that particular night and gave us everything they had. And I was especially proud of those 2.
A fast start to each half propelled our only independent team, Lapel, to a 61-50 win over rival Frankton in their season opener. The Bulldogs started on an 11-0 run, then after Frankton cut the lead to 2 points just after halftime, went on another 11-0 run early in the second half. Bodie and Brody Judge combined for 36 points in the season debut. No conference games were played in the first week of the Hoosier Heritage Conference either. Yorktown, Shelbyville, and Mount Vernon are all 2-0. Delta and Greenfield Central are both 1-0. Newcastle is 1-1. Pendleton Heights is 0-2, and New Pal, which just won a football state championship, hasn't started its season yet. Yorktown had a strong first week with a 60-51 win over Hagerstown and a big 55-47 win over Greensburg. Both games were at home. Yorktown shot 52% for the week and was led by a big week from senior Austin Cates, our Central Indiana Sports Report Boys Basketball Player of the Day for Saturday. For the week, he had 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 steals. Reigning regional champion Delta opened its season with a win for the third year in a row, beating Connorsville 48-36 at home. Still don't have any details on that one. Pendleton Heights is 0-2 for the fifth straight season after playing 4A Power Anderson and 2A Power Wapahani. As Rob Hunt of the Herald-Bulletin said in the interview that's coming up in just a couple of minutes, there's no reason to be concerned if you're an Arabian fan. Junior Cooper Sims had a great first week with 37 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. In the Mid-Eastern Conference, Shenandoah is already 2-0 in the conference, with wins over Union by 32 points and Blue River by 23. Randolph Southern also beat Daleville 60-33 on Wednesday in their first conference game. Wapahani and Westdale are both 2-0 overall. Monroe Central is 1-1. Eastern Hancock is 0-1. Cowan is 0-2. None of those teams have played a conference game yet. Wapahani beat Muncie Central 51-27 and Pendleton Heights 62-51 for 2 very nice wins to start the season. Both games were at home. The Raiders have now won 53 of their last 57 games. That includes last March's state championship game loss to Scottsburg. Junior Camden Bell had a big opening week with 42 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 3 rebounds. Westdale is 2-0 for the 7th time in the last 8 years after winning at Cambridge City 75-63 and at home against Alexandria 64-48. We may hear from senior Josiah Love in our weekly honors. He scored 63 points and shot 79% in the 2 wins. He was 13 for 14 and scored 29 points in Westdale's win over Alexandria. The Warriors shot 55% in the win over Alexandria. Junior Julian Carpenter, who's averaging 21 points per game, shot 15 for 24 from the field for the week, including 3 of 7 from deep. Cowan is 0-2 for the second consecutive season after a 42-point loss at Sheridan and a 15-point home loss to Hagerstown. The Blackhawks shot just 35% for the week and made 13 of their 44 three-point attempts. Junior Luke Garrett led the team with 27 points. He also had 9 steals, 6 rebounds, 3 assists in the Blackhawks' 2 games. Daleville lost its opener 60-33 in a Mid-Eastern Conference loss at Shenandoah on Wednesday. Senior Makai Snyder had 13 points to lead the Broncos. They shot just 12 for 46 in the loss. Senior Noah Colvin had 5 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, and 3 assists. And seniors Cooper Sexton and Josh Wilson scored 6 points apiece in the loss. Wilson tied Colvin with a team-high 7 rebounds. To the Pioneer Conference, Anderson Prep is 2-0 for the first time ever and did it in an impressive fashion, beating a pair of 2A county rivals. Alexandria 65-62 on Tuesday, then Elwood 48-24 on Saturday. The Jets had 4 players in double figures in the win over Alexandria. Senior Lincoln Fathour had 20, senior Cameron Anderson 13, seniors Marcus McLean and Zamarian Bryant scored 12 each. They shot 60% in the win. On Saturday, APA held Elwood to 20% shooting and 0 of 19 from behind the three-point line. 2016 state champion and reigning regional champion Liberty Christian looks like a championship contender again this year. The Lions shot 53% in their season-opening 15-point win over Phelan Academy. They trailed 12th ranked Anderson throughout Saturday, but got within 45-42 with 2 minutes and 11 seconds left. Sophomore Kendrick Martin led Liberty in scoring in both games, with 20 against Phelan and 13 against Anderson. Burris hasn't played yet. The Owls open Tuesday at Frankton. And to the Three Rivers Conference, Northwestern is 2-0 for the second year in a row against two completely different teams on a completely different schedule. This year, the Tigers started the season with a 38-32 win over Pioneer, then went to Lewis Cass and earned a 66-41 victory in their first ever Three Rivers Conference game. The win over Cass is the only TRC game that has been played so far by any of the league's 10 teams. Senior Hayden Cook led the comeback win over Pioneer in the opener with 17 points and 13 rebounds. To our power poll, just want to explain our power poll a little bit. It's a little bit of a mix between head-to-head record, who's going to fare best in their class, things like that. It's just going to be my opinion. I'm going to get some others' opinions. Hopefully, we'll hear from you as well on your opinions. So, just outside the top 10, Blackford, Misssinewa, Northwestern, Oak Hill, Sheridan, Taylor, and Western. Number 10 is Frankton. A road loss to Lapel doesn't keep the Eagles from not being in the top 10. Yorktown is number 9. They are 2-0. Great start for the Tigers, especially Saturday's win over Greensburg. Liberty Christian is 1-1. They are number 8. The Lions scored 92 points in their opening win, then hung with 4A power Anderson in a 3-point loss on Saturday. I'm guessing they're probably going to move up this ranking a little bit throughout the year. Marion is 2-0. They're number 7. The Giants had 2 good wins to start the season, but their big tests are coming with Hamilton Southeastern and Kokomo very soon. Lapel is number 6. The Bulldogs took care of business in their opener and looked like a sectional contender. Friday's home game against Pendleton should tell us a little more. Anderson is 2-0. They are number 4 in the Central Indiana Sports Report Power Poll. Number 5. They beat Pendleton Heights and Liberty Christian and have the potential to be the best team around. So do the rest of the teams in the top 5. Number 4 is Wapahani. The Raiders are 2-0. Even though they graduated their top 2 players, they don't seem to have missed a beat after an impressive first week. Number 3 is Tipton. The tests are coming for the Blue Devils, including Friday against Frankton. But Grady Carpenter and the Blue Devils are in for a fantastic season. Number 2 is 1-0 Delta. A lot of questions still yet to be answered for the Eagles, but looks like they're in for another really good season. And number 1 is Kokomo. No Flory, no Carson Rogers, but the Wildcats are number 1 until somebody beats them. A reminder that Rob Hunt is coming up to talk a little Madison County basketball right after our Central Indiana Sports Report weekly honors. Our boys basketball win of the week was Yorktown's win over Greensburg. You know, Greensburg's a perennial power in the South. They've won 15 games like every single year for the last 2 decades. That is a statement win for the Tigers, even though it was at home. The individual performance of the week goes to Tipton senior Grady Carpenter, who had a great start to his senior year. Finished with 28 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and 3 steals in the Blue Devils' 64-40 win over rival Tri-Central. The Central Indiana Sports Report Coach of the Week is Anderson Prep's Ryan Fathauer. He has Anderson Prep 2-0 for the first time ever after beating a pair of bigger Madison County schools last week. The Central Indiana Sports Report Team Performance of the Week is the Kokomo Wildcats, who made school history with 21 3-pointers in their win at Western. The Central Indiana Sports Report Player of the Week is Westdell senior Josiah Love. He had 34 points in a win over Cambridge City and 29 in a 16-point win over Alexandria. In that one, he was 13 for 14 from the field. He is shooting 79% for the season, 63% from three, and 80% of the foul line during the Warriors' 2-0 start. And the Central Indiana Sports Report boys basketball team of the week is the Anderson Indians. Anderson beat rivals Pendleton Heights and Liberty Christian. Doesn't start much better than that. It's not quite Highland and Madison Heights, but Pendleton Heights and Liberty is pretty darn good. Congratulations to the Yorktown Tigers for their win of the week, Grady Carpenter for his performance of the week, Ryan Fothauer for being the coach of the week, our team performance of the week. Congratulations to the Kokomo Wildcats, the Central Indiana Sports Report player of the week once again. Congratulations to Westdale senior Josiah Love. And the Anderson Indians are the Central Indiana Sports Team of the Week. Congratulations, one and all. Please stay tuned for Rob Hunt.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Rob Hunt, as we talked about just a couple of days ago, Madison County basketball is going to be very entertaining this year, and we had some good ones on Saturday. Let's start with the one you were at, LaPel and Frankton. Looked like it was going to be a blowout early on. Turned out to be a pretty good one.
Yeah, LaPel jumped out to an 11-0 lead, and Frankton fought back and actually closed it to a 4-point game at halftime. But then LaPel opened the second half with another 11-0 run, and that was pretty much all she wrote. It was double digits from there. So, I was impressed with LaPel, and not surprisingly so. I expected them to come out and be a pretty good team with the Judge brothers, who both were solid. I thought Frankton played pretty well. Coach Robinson was happy with their effort. They made some shots. Brady Carmack played really well inside. I think some other things come together. I think Frankton will be a much better team later down the road. So I would cue this one up. Hopefully we can see it again. If not at county, maybe at least at sectional.
I would imagine that's definitely a possibility, as good as both teams are, that they will see each other down the road. And a really good one at Highland High School yesterday, too.
Yeah. Liberty and Anderson, they moved this to the larger venue, and for with good reason. They had over 2,000 people there, it sounds like. So Anderson, I think, kind of led all the way through. I don't remember all the specifics, but and look, just when they were getting ready to stretch it out, it looked like Liberty closed the gap, made it a 3-point game there late. And so Liberty has to be pretty happy with that. Yeah. I mean, to go up against an experienced Anderson team that's got a lot of size and a lot of skill to keep that thing with a 3. Look out for Liberty, man. And this is going to be one of those teams that should be ranked pretty high in 1A all year, no matter what their record is. They could almost get to the end of the season with a 500 record because their schedule is so tough. But man, that's a loaded team. I mean, they were great last year, and they're even better this year.
And then we got Anderson Prep 2-0 through 2 games, first time ever. And not only that, but they beat 2 county rivals.
They beat 2 county rivals. 2 county rivals. Well, at least one I think is actually. I think they will play Elwood again in the county, if I'm not mistaken. That's the first round matchup.
That's right.
And Coach Vanskyock's not happy with the way his team is shooting. And I think that's going to be a team that's offensively challenged this year. They're going to have to find some creative ways to get Jaden Mullins the ball. I think Jaden's a kid who could finish. Corbin Level's a kid who could shoot it a little bit. But, APA's got to be thrilled. 2-0. They've never – actually, I don't know that they had ever won their season opener. So 2-0 to start a season is great. They beat Alexandria to open it. And both were – actually, the first game was pretty close. The Elwood game they handled at home. So Lincoln Fathauer's a really good player. We talked about a couple of these guys the other day. Cameron Anderson, really talented guard. I'm looking forward to my chance to see APA, the boys here pretty soon, and see what they're looking like.
Also a big start for Madison-Grant, getting a win over Wabash to start the season. much detail from that now, but um, it looks like Wabash maybe isn't quite as good as they've been as they were last year, but still, for a team that won 6 games last year, that's a big win to start the season.
Our 11 teams, that's the one. Madison-Grant is the one we didn't get to cover this week. But we'll get up there to see Coach Hendrixson and those guys pretty soon. That's a team looking to bounce back, right? I mean, they had a tough year last year. They had some injuries. They were trying to figure out how to play without Jace Howell, graduated the year before. So that's a team looking to rebound. And, you get a win. I don't care who it's against. You still put up with a victory. You're feeling pretty good about yourself.
No doubt. And I think that's going to be a team that may be one of the surprises of the area. Based on this, every morning I go into school, there are balls bouncing in the gym before I even get there. So, 7:15 in the morning. And that tells me that that's a team that's working hard to be better this year.
And they're pretty well coached. Coach Hendrickson does a nice job. He's been very successful up there since he took the reins last year. I think it was kind of an aberration of because Jace Howell was there the year before, graduated, and did everything. I mean, I think he's one of those guys who when you graduate, you forget. You look at the stats, and you're like, yeah, they were the leading scorer. They played great defense. You forget all the stuff that team. I mean, he controlled the game on the court on both ends. And when you lose a player like that, who's a big character guy too, that's tough to replace. And sometimes some teams don't do it within a year. I remember a Daleville baseball team that had won the state championship only graduated one senior, but he was the glue on that team, and they were not the same the next year. Even though they were every bit as talented, they just did not have that guy.
And it happens even more in basketball.
Sure. So, I guess we shouldn't have been surprised that Madison-Grant struggled like they did last year. But I would expect they're going to bounce back this season.
And then we have Alexandria struggling, Pendleton 0-2. Would you consider that struggling? Or is that just the schedule?
That's the schedule. I think Pendleton's going to be okay by the time we come around. I mean, they have another tough one Tuesday against Westfield. Yes, then they go to LaPel Friday. I mean, Anderson, Wapahani, Westfield, LaPel. That is not an easy opening 4-game stretch, especially for a team that really only returns one starter. If I'm not mistaken, Missingo may be the only starter who's back. So. Cooper Sims off to a great start. Had a big game last night at Wapahani. I think he hit for 23 points. So if they get a second scorer like him going along with Missingo and they play that Joe Buck defense that we know they're going to play as they figure things out, they've got some kids that can play on the perimeter. So I think that team will come around.
And then Shenandoah is 2-0 and looks like they're going to have a nice season.
Man, that's just a blue collar team. I think they don't have any 6'5" guys. I don't think they've got a bunch of guards. They got a bunch of several of those guys play football, so they're tough. And Coach Ellsworth, he coaches a tough brand of basketball, that hard nosed defense mentality, and that game, if I'm not mistaken, was tied at halftime. Saturday, and this is on the road at Blue River, and then they just blew them out in the second half. Aiden Coffey scored, I think, 14 or 15 points after halftime, hit some threes, and they ended up winning by 23.
Yeah,
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, when you go from tie to halftime to winning by 20, that's halftime adjustants.
That's right.
That's a coach saying the right thing and fixing a piece or two here and there at halftime and getting it done. So good for Shenandoah. Nice 2-0 start for them.
Thank you so much to Rob Hunt for doing that for us once again. Also to Josh Hendrixson, Josh Brooks, Kevin Renbarger, Aaron Daniels, Ryan Vanskyock, Cam Hindman, and George Bremer for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. And thanks most of all to you for listening. Seriously, every single listen means so much to us. We went into this thinking that we would be successful more because of the idea than the person running the show, but we weren't sure. Now we know it's a hit, and we are so grateful to you for making it one. So go right now and like, subscribe, or follow us on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music. And it would be really helpful if you'd tell a friend. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.